that's how that went. So, hey, it's good book time.
It is. What are we talking about this week, Mary?
We're talking about music.
Alright.
So I brought my guitar. I am not very good. That's okay. You don't have to be good to play music. You just have to try really hard.
And practice, I'm sure.
Yes. Well, sort of. It depends on if you're like a punk fan, because the Sex Pistols always sucked. They're great. They're not good musicians. John Lydon will tell you that. So he's Johnny Rotten. That's the cool thing about punk music. You don't have to be good to get started. You just have to keep playing. The good musicians, though, I will say, are the ones that figured, oh, we do need to practice our instruments a lot more so we can get a tight set.
Makes sense.
I know. I act like I know what I'm talking about, but I don't. I just read a lot of books about music, which is what we're talking about today.
We are. Why don't you tell us what you got first?
Cool. Yeah, my stack's a little overwhelming. I apologize for that. Some of these I'll just blitz through. Alright, so my first book is a middle grade. This one is by Celia Perez, who is also a school librarian. Cool. Yeah, so this book is about a kid that her parents are divorced, and for the longest time they lived in the same place, so it's okay, right? Her dad owns a local record store, her mom's a professor, and so her dad is white, her mom is Latinx. And her mom ends up moving them across the country from Florida to Chicago, and she's like, what, I don't like this. Like, what is this whole thing about cold weather? No, I'm leaving my dad, I'm leaving everything I know behind. And then, so, a lot of this book is about her trying to figure out how to fit in at school. But also be yourself, because when you move, just like when you go to summer camp we talked about, you get to redefine who you are. And so our main character, Malu, Maria Luisa, like, she decided she's going to be punk, because she and her dad love to listen to punk music at the record store. So she, like, you know, does her hair, like, up, and she has, like, a whole bunch of, like really, like, heavy makeup, from one of her favorite punk singers, which is Extreme Shazanka from X? Yes. So, yeah, so that does not help her fit in at school at all. But she ends up trying to start a punk band. And so it's her little story about trying to fit in, as well as, like, trying to do her own thing at the same time. And kind of figuring out, like, she has the first rule of punk down, but then, like, what is really punk? So, it's my first book. What do you got?
Cool. So, my first book is one that is on my to-read list. It's called The Happy Ever After Playlist. And it sounds like a cute little Hallmark story. So,
I'm here for it.
Sloane finds a dog. And he has such sad eyes that she takes him home. And she had just broken up with her fiance, and her life is terrible. And of course, this cute little dog makes everything better. What she doesn't know, though, is that his real owner gets in touch with her, and he's actually a musician on tour in Australia. So he didn't know his dog was missing, or, you know, somehow that happened. But the problem is Sloane, of course, has fallen for this dog, and she doesn't want to give him up. And, of course, it's his dog, and so he wants his dog back. So they begin to have conversations, and maybe are not a little flirtation, and, you know, we all know where that goes.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I love romance books is if they have dogs, is because you know the dog's never going to die.
It's true.
That is not really the risk you take in a myriad of children's books and adult fiction.
It's very true.
Alright. My next book is called I Want to Be Your Joey Ramone by Stephanie Cunard. This is a book about a teen that her mom was really into music and, like, left to follow a band when Emily was 4 months old and never came back. And so Emily has a punk band, she's really into this music and whatnot, and she's kind of like, if I can play the right song, maybe my mom is out there and she'll hear it and she'll come back to me. So that's kind of like a heartbreaking story. But also, you know, the love is in the music, and, like, the music can speak to you, and maybe it can come back. So, this one's pretty cool. That's my other one.
Alright, my next one is called Wildflower. It is a trilogy. It's perfect for you Taylor Swift fans out there, which I am one of.
A little bit.
But, yeah. But, like, her early days when she was playing country. We do have a really cool Taylor Swift book in our YA section, but it's checked out. So, check that out when you get a chance.
What's the really cool Taylor Swift book?
It's called Taylor Swift.
Okay, cool. Just making sure.
So Bird comes from a family of musicians. She's in a bluegrass band, and they play kind of all over, but they're playing in Nashville, and it kind of happens that her dad can't sing. Her dad is the main singer in their band. Her dad can't sing, so Bird steps in. She takes the spot, and lightning strikes. And everybody suddenly wants Bird as the top musician. So it's kind of a little bit about her struggling to kind of find her identity that's on her own and not with her family band. Because the record companies don't want her family, they just want her. And she's also trying to figure out, like, fame, because she kind of skyrockets a little bit, and who to trust and who not to trust. There's, you know, the paparazzi, and there's maybe some fellow musicians who might have a romance or friendship, and, you know, very fun.
Cool.
All the books are out in that one, too, so you can just kind of binge them all.
Nice. I like it when we get to binge the books. Alright, so my next book is by Jen Wilde. It's called The Brightsiders. So the Brightsiders are the name of this band, and the lead story about this is Amy King is their drummer. And I think in this book she's just turned 21, and she has been living a very wild and raucous lifestyle before she turned 21. And she kind of needs to kind of cool it because the tabloids are really after her. She may or may not have a romance with like her lead singer of the band, who is like this really cool genderqueer kid named Alfie. And there's just a lot of drama, and every time she tries to put out a fire in her life, 7 more show up. Whether it's her fault or if it's just from her crazy family, because she doesn't have like the best parents. So it's this whole situation. And so she's basically, imagine like TMZ is following you all the time. This is this book. But one of the things I love about Jen Wilde is she writes pretty good Hollywood books, as well as most of her characters are kind of overlap with other. Like you're talking about that debut cover from a couple books ago. This one also has shared characters that come in and out of the play. So some of my favorite characters from a former book are also kind of make a little cameo in this one too. So it's a super fun book if you're into that.
I love it when that happens.
Great.
Alright, my next book is Audrey Wait. This is by Robin Benway, one of her earlier books. So Audrey was dating Evan, and Evan is a musician, and she realizes that they're just not really great together, so she breaks up with him. She's like going out the door, going down the stairs, and he's like, Audrey, wait! And she's just like, no. So he writes a hit song called Audrey Wait, becomes mega popular. It's like the huge hit of the summer or whatever season, I forget when it is. And now Audrey has all of these paparazzi following her, and her life has just gotten 100% crazy while she's trying to date other people and, you know, go through normal life. So
that sounds very stressful.
What happens when a song is written about you?
Yeah. Alright, so my next one is a graphic novel. It is volume 1 of the Achies. So if you watch Riverdale, or if you grew up reading Archie comics, or you're still growing up reading Archie comics, this is the band that Archie and his friends have. And so they're called the Achies, which, fun fact, they actually did make a fake band for the Archies, and they released one hit called Sugar Sugar, which actually made the Billboard charts.
Love that song.
Yes. So, anyway. So this one follows the Archies on their first tour. The band Churches even makes a little bit of appearance in the comic. I guess we actually could have included this on our road trip one last week too, because it's like, they're touring, but of course there's drama, and you know, anytime you put Betty and Veronica together, at some point they're either going to get up to something or get into it with each other. So it's a pretty awesome little band book. So I'm gonna go a couple more times get through the comic books, because I have a huge stack here. My next book is Spider-Gwen. You're like, what does this have to do with music? Well, in this world, Gwen Stacy is Spider-Gwen, which is pretty freaking cool. But by day, she's actually the drummer for the Mary Janes. And so Spider-Gwen is Gwen Stacy trying to live a dual life of fighting crime as a vigilante, but then also by day trying to make sure she gets to band practice and the gigs she's supposed to go to. So it's very stressful for a teenager. So, I mean, being a burgeoning musician is already stressful, but then you put on fighting crime, trying to solve mysteries. I mean, sure.
That is a lot.
Cool, and then my last one is one of my favorite comics of all time. I don't know if I've talked about this before. Scott Pilgrim, and his Precious Little Life. I love this book. I love this comic series so much. I have the board game that goes with it. It's amazing. So Scott Pilgrim is in a band called Sex Bomb, which is actually a Super Mario Brothers reference. And he's in his early 20s and he's dating a high school kid, and that's a bad idea because Scott maybe is not the best guy. But then he ends up falling for Ramona Flowers. But he has to fight Ramona's 7 evil exes in order to win her heart. And so it's kind of like a big mashup of a lot of cool video games and kind of like anime styles all together. So it's an explosive read. It's super fun. I think there's like 7 or 8 volumes of this, and I really, really love it. And if you really love this comic, Scott Pilgrim, the movie, which is done by the same director that did Shaun of the Dead, which is Edgar Wright, this is like the best comic book interpretation of a movie I've ever seen. Like, it is so freaking good. I watched it a couple weeks ago with my wife. We love it so much. Like, it's so, so good. Also, it's so good. Alright. Your turn.
Alright, I have another Taylor Swift type book. This is called Jesse's Girl. It's by Miranda Kenneally, who wrote a lot of sports books set in the same town. And this book, I believe, overlaps a little bit with those. Yes, so this is part of the 100 Oak High series. So Maya Henry wants to be a rock star. She's really excited about being a musician. You can sort of see from the front, she's got a little bit of country in her. So for career day at the high school, she writes that in. And little does she know that the principal's nephew is Jesse Scott, who is like this big rock star.
See, I thought there was going to be a Rick Springfield tie-in because Jesse's Girl.
Nope.
Okay.
Not at all.
Because that's the song.
Yes.
Okay.
It is, but it's not. I lost my train of thought. So they have a terrible meet cute, which is awesome. But, so Jesse just assumes that she's, one of his many fangirls, and that goes horribly wrong for him. Maya does end up shadowing him. She realizes she maybe doesn't want all the fame that goes with being a rock star, because his life is kind of terrible when you don't know who to trust. He has no friends. His parents are not really involved in his life anymore. They've kind of checked out. But they start to share some things, and they're maybe get to be friends, and then maybe something a little bit more. So, it's cute. Super fun.
Cool. My next book is a book about music. So this is pretty much like the quintessential history of punk rock. Well, I wouldn't say it's quintessential. It's one of the pillars of punk rock books. So it's called Please Kill Me, The Uncensored Oral History of Punk. It's by Legs McNeill and Gillian McCain. Legs McNeill actually supposedly coined the term punk. I'm not really sure if that's 100% true, but that's what he claims. He also wrote a magazine called Punk back in the 70s New York scene. So this has all types of interviews with everybody that was in the scene at that point in time. And if you really get into punk, like the New York scene is different from the California scene, which is different from the UK scene. So it's pretty cool because you've got a whole like little melting pot of weirdness happening that makes some really great music. Let's see, I'll go again. So your favorite band is Killing Me. What pop music rivalries reveal about the meaning of life. This is a book which talks about people who get into fights about music. So like, who's better, Tupac or Biggie? And people have like real like moral and ethical like dilemmas about this. Or like, who's better, Taylor Swift versus, actually I don't know who would be Taylor Swift's like,
Nobody.
Contemporary, okay. Or like, who's better, Zeppelin or like Pink Floyd? Actually, that's even a bad pairing. But you get my drift. Like, people have all of these. And so it kind of talks about like what that says about you and how you feel about it. Yeah, this one's like Nirvana versus Pearl Jam. Quintessential, right? So, like, what it reveals about you. So it's a pretty cool little, like, nonfiction book. Do you want to go?
Sure. And my next one is Fat Kid Rules the World by K.L. Going. So this is about a boy named Troy who weighs 296 pounds. He's not happy with his life, and he is working up the courage to kill himself in the subway station. When he meets Kurt. Kurt is, basically homeless, sort of. He has a huge reputation as a awesome guitarist. But because he's homeless, he's very skinny, he barely eats anything. they strike up a conversation, and Kurt has decided that he has saved Troy's life. And so their friendship kind of starts slowly and builds to, maybe we should form a band together. And Troy tries to become a drummer, and he's not really very good at it. But maybe he'll get better.
Cool. So the last couple books I have are all books about musicians, sometimes told by other people, sometimes their own stories, so autobiographies and biographies. So we have a lot of them. You should come check them out. So the ones I'm highlighting today are the Beastie Boys book. So it's by Michael Diamond and Adam Horovitz, the surviving Beastie Boys. So it's basically just the story of like how they got together, but one of the things that's cool about it is you get a lot of inside photos and like set lists and scribblings and whatnot. So it is a huge book, but it's also a lot of cool photographs as well, which is part of the reason why it's so dense. The next one is, this one kind of came out this year, Debbie Harry's Face It. She's the lead singer for Blondie. This one also has a lot of photographs in it as well, because if you know anything about Blondie, they also kind of intersect the art scene as well. Like the guitarist who was Debbie Harry's longtime boyfriend is also like a noted photographer. So those photographs are pictured in here too. And then our newest one, this one just came out. I'm doing a lot of stuff on New York punk because that's what I just grabbed, but we do have other books. This one is about Remain in Love. It's Talking Heads to the Tom Tom Club. So again, Talking Heads are really important in the kind of art house scene that comes out in New York after the Velvet Underground, before New Wave. So they're kind of influential for like bringing a lot of that into our music. So 80s music would not be the same without the Talking Heads. Burning down the house. So this is a pretty cool book that kind of looks at what they've done and where that's put us. So yeah.
Cool. My last book, it's a picture book. It's very, very sweet. It's called Because. And in the back it says, because an unexpected note can change a life. And it's about this girl who gets to go to a orchestra music. It's orchestra. She goes to a concert, and because her uncle is sick, and she goes to this concert, and she hears the music, and she's like blown away. She's just like, oh my god, this is awesome. And the music stays with her, and she decides that she's going to learn everything about music. And the ending, which I won't spoil, is super sweet, and it's just a very awesome book.
That looks really cool.
It is.
I like the artwork.
The artwork is great. Oh, I should have said. The words are by Mo Willems, and the illustrations are Amber Wren.
Awesome. Cool. So we have many more books about music. This is a small smattering. I had to stop myself. As you can see, my pile is way too big for this week.
And it's usually the opposite problem.
I know. I really... You're lucky. Blinded by the Light was checked out, which is an amazing movie that features a lot of Bruce Springsteen songs in it. I love it so much because Bruce Springsteen is the boss, not Tony Danza.
Alright, cool. We will see you guys next week.